as y'all may know, as y'all may well know or may not know, I'm a bass guitar player. I slap that old bass. And, you know, the minutia of life, like anyone, your hobbies get away from you. You know what I mean? Like, how many times do you find yourself kicking yourself in the rump because you don't go roller skating like you used to? You used to play roller ball, I don't know, ultimate frisbee, crocheting, whatever the hell it is that you do, you find yourself kicking yourself in the rump because, you don't quite get after it like you used to. I'm trying to find that balance. And that's just so trite. It's so passe. It's so like, duh, finding a balance. But it's like, the more you try to will yourself into doing things or change yourself into doing things, you realize that to a certain extent, you're really not in control of it. You just got to let it be. And come to it from a natural openness. So I'm trying to allow that natural openness to find me and to guide me in my hobby as a musician, because it's important to me for no egotistical reason. Something in me wants to keep it as a thriving part of my life, with no illusion of stardom, standing on stage with Lady Gaga, playing bass. Like, I'm not... I heard a guy on the bus the other day. He was drunk off his tits, man. This guy was hammered. He's chirping at these girls, right? Hey, honey, you ever date a bass player? Yeah, that's what women want. A bass player. Give me the lowliest position in the band. The bass player. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. Hey, honey, you ever date a bass player? Yeah, I went slumming once. I mean, I ain't trying to do it for some glorious thing where I can tell people on a bus that I play bass or for some egotistical reason. It's just in me to want to do. So I'm trying to find that openness to let it come into me, and poor choice of words. I just want to let it come into me. I'm looking for a way to let it pour into me. It's even more disturbing. I'm looking for a way to let it shine through me, this bass playing hobby of mine. And I don't know, just let it be more a part of me versus being a concept of me. Instruments are a magical object. Certain objects hold certain mysticisms that people like to just hold dear to them because it represents something. Like a skateboard, an electric guitar, a truck, a Mustang, I don't know, a Wonder Bra, a stripper pole. There's just something about them that create a vibe. And I don't want to merely just have an instrument in my home, my bass guitars. I don't want them there to just, oh, I'm creative. It's like, it's just cluttering up space. I want to use it. I want it to be a part of me. Not always easy, folks. And I was thinking about it today too, the whole dichotomy between, you may understand this a little more if you play, but there's always this little thing, this back and forth between guitarists and bassists. Who's the dominant one? I mean, obviously the role of the bass is to hold down that bottom end, hold down that groove, that rhythm, and to outline the melody. That's the role. That's the position. But then you got a lot of fancy bass players and a lot of great talented bass players. And there can be a little bit of that power struggle, that power dynamic. Bass player versus guitar player. I found myself swept up in that at times too. And, you know, I ain't some major player with any defining stance on it, but, you know, it's there. I was just kind of chuckling to myself today because it's like, you know, I really do enjoy bass. I love what bass does. I love the arpeggios, you know? When you learn your scales and your arpeggios. Like an arpeggio is basically, if I'm not fucking this up, it's the single notes of a chord, you know? Like a major scale, you know? Do, re, mi, fa, I can't even sing it, but you know, I mean, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, la, ti, la, sol, for, mi, re, do, ra, whatever, I'm a hack. But you know what I mean? Like, those are arpeggios. Or like a major scale, you know? Root, third, fifth. That's the chord, right? The first, the third, and the fifth note. That's the chord of a major scale. Also the eighth, if you want to give it like a octave. But you know, those are the single notes, the arpeggios. Root, third, fifth. Root, third, fifth. That's the chord. So, you know, a guitarist might play that chord, and makes that beautiful chord. The bass player might play the single notes, boom, 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 whatever, right? I love chords. There is something beautiful about that with guitar, but I very much like the low end, the bass, the arpeggio, the single notes. I like the arpeggios, the single notes, the doom 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 doom, or like a rhythm, doom 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 doom. Like I like the single notes, even though a beautiful chord is amazing, and I would love to be talented enough to add chord work to my bass playing. You know, like I said, I'm just a hobbyist hack. Chords are beautiful and they sound great. But I'm really into that arpeggiated sound. I'm really into that, you know, groove sound, you know, rhythmic. And there's just something kind of dopey and funny about like an acoustic guitar, like the strumming of a guitar. And ding, 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 ding. Like I was laughing about it today. I heard somebody strumming a guitar. I was like, you know, I ever hear like somebody strumming a guitar? It's got a real bitchy, switchy kind of sound to it. Even though it is beautiful, it's like a dichotomy. It's like this weird kind of thing where it's like, it's beautiful yet retarded. It's kind of like a ballerina. Like, and you look at a ballerina spinning around, it's beautiful, it's graceful, and it's absolutely fucking retarded. All in the same breath, you know? Much like myself. Yeah. So same thing with like a guitar player when they're strumming those chords. A jing jing a jing jing a jing 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 jing. It's like it sounds good, but it's also just retarded. Whereas like bass always sounds right to me. Like I like the bass. Like no matter how you do it, slap it, you know. Give me a nice little run, a nice little groove. Give me some eighth notes, some 16 notes. Give me some fancy jazz arpeggios. Give me some chordal arpeggios, you know, give me that bass, you know, give me that slap, you know, give me that fuzz, you know, give me that funk. Whereas a lot of times guitar, even though I love the chord and even though it's the melody, even though it's beautiful and I appreciate it, especially like in rock, I love guitar in like, you know, hard rock. I love a beautiful acoustic, you know, country, blues, you know, jazzy, classical. But there is something just straight up retarded about a strumming of a guitar. Ding, 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 ding. So anyway, you know, I've been thinking about that. So, you know, that's something that my amateur musicianship has been working on. And, you know, I would love to see it get to a point where I could like, you know, hold up my end of the bargain as a rhythm player and, you know, up my game, up my knowledge, really lay down that rhythm, really lay down that bass line, really outline the melody. And it would be kind of cool going into my future of playing if I could get to a point where it's like I'm apprenticing under like better players, like a real guitarist, real drummer, and just kind of learn from them and not be about that limelight. It'd be nice to just kind of really do that. Hey, I'm just locking it down as a real solid bassist. Every now and then I step in for a little solo, whatever, and then back to laying down that fucking groove and just really learning the instrument and the role of a bass player. You know what I mean? So that's something that I'm looking forward to in my playing. Yeah.